SummerSlam. We have some SummerSlam news, some SummerSlam wacky plans. I love this word wacky so much. It just always makes me laugh. It makes me think of wacky races, anything like that. So when I heard this week that Vince McMahon had some wacky plans for SummerSlam, my ears immediately pricked up because I thought, oh, this is going to be interesting. So, for those not aware, just like WrestleMania and Money in the Bank, SummerSlam has also been moved from its original location. Now, it was due to take place originally in Boston, Massachusetts, at the TD Garden. That is no longer happening. Instead, it will be now being held at the WWE Performance Center, or potentially it could be held in a different location. Vince McMahon reportedly wants to hold it in a different location. Now, the Wrestling Observer has reported that the WWE chairman and CEO Vince McMahon has a, quote, wacky idea, end quote, for the whole pay-per-view. They might just shoot it from a beach or something like that. Now, Brian Alvarez from the Wrestling Observer said, quote, I don't think so. I know this. I know Vince wants something wacky for SummerSlam. He doesn't want it to be just another SummerSlam in an empty arena with a bunch of fans wearing masks. He wants to do something different, and I'm not sure what it is. I think PW Insider was talking about a bunch of potential different locations, which actually they've done when you think about the Boneyard match or whatever. I don't know what they're going to do, but he wants to do something. We're going to find out very soon what his latest wacky plan is. He wants to do something different from what they've been doing for the last several pay-per-views, end quote. Now, this is very interesting because SummerSlam has been something that has been... Obviously, it's a massive event every year, and it's a massive pay-per-view. It's always held in a big location at a big arena, and it's maybe second behind, actually maybe third behind the Royal Rumble and WrestleMania in terms of the big event that it is. I would say previously it was WrestleMania, then SummerSlam, then the Royal Rumble, but the Royal Rumble over the last sort of 10 years has just exploded into this giant event now that's being held at baseball stadiums every year and has its own, fan access thing. It's just become such a big event, hasn't it? Probably that has overtaken SummerSlam in my opinion. But there was a lot of discussion about what WWE wanted to do for SummerSlam this year when it came to the whole pandemic. Previously, SummerSlam was the event that they were aiming for to bring fans back into the arenas for the event. For the longest time, we heard that Vince McMahon, in internal meetings or discussions with whoever would listen to him, was that he wanted to have fans back by the time for SummerSlam, even if it wasn't going to be in the TD Garden in Boston, which, look, that wasn't going to happen for the longest time. The announcement last week of, SummerSlam is no longer going to be taking place in Boston hardly shocked anyone. I think we knew that was the case for at least the last couple of months, maybe even longer than that. But he wanted to have fans at the event. There were rumors that it could take place in Florida, maybe at an arena with a reduced capacity, something along those lines. There were plans, tentative plans, or at least discussions about potentially having fans back for SummerSlam. Now that we're nearly in August, at the time of recording, it's Friday, July 31st. Now that we're nearly in August, we know that is so far away from happening at the moment. Actually, over here in the UK, we are actually having some fans back at sporting events, at some cricket events coming up. We're actually having fans. I think it's capped at 1,000 fans attending the event, but we are actually having fans attend some sporting events over here. But especially in America, especially in certain states, having fans back, mass gatherings in arenas is just so far away at this period of time, and obviously wasn't feasible to happen for SummerSlam, but just to be honest, probably isn't going to be feasible for a long time going forward. So that just isn't going to happen for a while. So that obviously isn't going to happen for SummerSlam, and it does make you wonder, like what things was Vince McMahon and the WWE hearing in the last couple of months? Because we've heard this story over the last couple of months, right? We've heard the story of Vince McMahon and the WWE. They want fans back by SummerSlam. They're aiming for SummerSlam to have fans back, and even then, like I just said, we've known for like 2-3 months now, not only is SummerSlam not going to be taking place in Boston, Massachusetts, but it certainly isn't going to be taking place with fans. It's not happening, and you wonder, like, who are they having these discussions with? How out of touch with just reality at this point? Forget being out of touch with the wrestling business, and people will say Vince McMahon, he doesn't get pro wrestling in 2020, blah blah blah. Does he even get society or the real world in 2020? Because having fans or having even half an arena full of people for SummerSlam just isn't on the cards. It just isn't on the... I mean, nowhere near. That is nowhere near happening at this period of time. Or even 2-3 months ago, we could have told you that is nowhere near happening at this period of time. And lo and behold, 3 months later, that is exactly the case. So it does make you wonder, who on earth is he talking to during that period of time? Going, well, maybe we can do this, maybe we can do that. I don't know. It makes you roll your eyes, isn't it? And last night was the actually, and this goes off topic slightly. We'll get back onto what potentially WWE could be doing for SummerSlam. But last night was the WWE's second quarterly earnings call for 2020. And I listened to the audio. A lot of discussion was about ratings, sinking ratings. How come Raw and SmackDown aren't doing great in terms of the ratings? How come the likes of NXT and AEW have rebounded? What's the situation in WWE like? Why did they fire Paul Heyman? What's going on with live events? All of that sort of stuff. And I sat there and I listened, and I marveled. I absolutely marveled. I was in awe of Vince McMahon during that call, because we've heard these stories before, right? Vince McMahon is the ultimate worker. We've heard all those people. The hardest person to read in the pro wrestling business, especially WWE, is Vince McMahon. No one can ever really, truly get a gauge of what Vince McMahon is thinking, what is going on in his mind. He is the ultimate poker player. He has the ultimate poker face. The Vince McMahon Jedi mind trick, right? People will stand outside of his office for hours being all angry. I'm going to go in there, I'm going to curse him out, I'm going to say I'm not happy with this creative, I'm not happy with that. And then they go in, 10 minutes later they leave, and they've bought into his idea and perhaps even more of it. He's the ultimate worker. And I sat there last night and I listened to this earnings call, and I marveled, because the man has not even just an ability, just a natural God-given talent for either not answering a question, dancing around the question, or coming up for excuses for shortcomings with WWE. It's actually unbelievable. It really is unbelievable. A couple of times he wouldn't answer the question or manage to dance around the question, and I just sat there and I laughed, because I was like, this is incredible. This is incredible. One of them was, how come Raw and SmackDown's ratings haven't rebounded in the same way that the likes of NXT and AEW's has? And he was like, well, they're newer programming, they're newer people, all that sort of stuff. And I was like, no, they're not. They're the reason they've rebounded is because they're better programs. And this isn't like a whole, oh, you're a smart mark, you like NXT and AEW better than Raw and SmackDown. They are just creatively better programs. They're easier to watch than Raw and SmackDown. They've got more going on them, and they're just a better television show to watch. The idea that because they're newer, they're going to rebound faster is actually so paradoxical, because in reality, it should be Raw and SmackDown that are the ones that can rebound faster, because they have people that are way more ingrained, and an audience way more ingrained in their viewing habits. Raw's been on the air on Monday nights for 27 years now. They've got 27 years worth of an audience used to watching Raw on Monday nights. SmackDown's been on the air since 1999. They've got 21 years of an audience, ready and in their viewing habits to watch SmackDown on whatever night that airs. So they should be the ones rebounding quickly, not the ones that have been on the air for like a year. That idea is farcical. But I sat there and I marveled, and I was like, man, Vince McMahon, the ultimate worker. And, people say about being out of touch with professional wrestling. Maybe he's just out of touch with reality at this point of time. It's just, it is incredible. But to get back onto SummerSlam and the wacky plans, I love that word, wacky. He's obviously, Vince McMahon, fed up of the standard empty arena pay-per-views and wants to do something different for SummerSlam. So, Fightful Sean Ross Sapp has reported that WWE is considering an outdoor location for SummerSlam on August 23rd. Mike Johnson, a PW insider, claims the promotion has had talks about potentially doing it on a cruise ship or on the beach. That's interesting. That is interesting. Now, the fact that WWE is reportedly thinking about holding the entire event on a boat or a beach, not just a singles match, it's interesting. I think that's really, really interesting. So far for the show, We've only had the WWE Championship match between Drew McIntyre and Randy Orton confirmed, in addition to the Raw Tag Team Championship match between the Street Profits and Angel Garza and Andrade for the card so far, but that will happen over the next couple of weeks. I'm interested. Now, when I heard the proposals that potentially we could be getting SummerSlam on the beach or on a cruise ship or on a boat, that interests me. I think that could be really, really good, and I think that could be really, really interesting. There is so much hype at the moment, and there was even prior to when they had their first event, but there was so much hype at the moment about UFC Fight Island, right? The buzz that got. I think initially it kind of got mocked from Dana White, where he said we're gonna have an island and we're gonna have fights and we're gonna fly people in and we're gonna have fights on the island just all the time. In reality, it isn't exactly what it was. They're fighting in Abu Dhabi. Yes, it's technically like an island, I suppose, but it got a lot of buzz. It was people were thinking, wow, can you just imagine the aesthetic of that, how it's going to look? You know, people flying into an island. I think in people's minds, and in kind of my mind too, your imagination runs wild, right? Your imagination's like Hulkamania. It runs wild. And I think some people thought that it was going to be a case of this like tiny remote island with just an octagon on it, and people would fly in, put their gloves on and start beating the hell out of each other, when of course that was never going to be the case. But I think people were excited that, hey, this could be something really different. This could be something really unique, and if it's unique and if it's different, then I have to watch. And that got a lot of buzz, and it's still getting a lot of buzz now. They're still doing their Fight Island shows. They've got one next weekend, Daniel Cormier versus Stipe Miocic for the UFC Heavyweight Championship. So it's getting a lot of buzz, and they're selling a ton of merchandise with the Fight Island merchandise, and the setup they've got there, it is essentially like a massive advert for Abu Dhabi tourism, but I guess that's the deal they had to make to get UFC Fight Island up and going. But I think people were, and I know I was, maybe I'm just generalizing this, but I know I was slightly disappointed when eventually I saw the aesthetic of what Fight Island actually was. In my head, I thought, okay, right, I didn't jump as far as to say like it's going to be this tiny island with an octagon on it, but what I did think, I thought, okay, great, we're going to see a different aesthetic to what we usually see at UFC events. Obviously, the UFC event is very similar to the WWE events. We have the ring or the octagon in the middle of the arena, and then we have the arena crowd sitting on the outside of it. I thought we're going to have some sort of different backdrop here. In my head, I thought they're going to have the octagon in the middle of the beach on the sand, with maybe like the ocean in the background, in an open air space. It's going to look really interesting and really fun, and it's going to be a really unique event. And look, we're in really unique times at the moment, and really difficult and hard times. Dusty Rhodes promo there, but we are in unique and difficult times at the moment. This is the perfect opportunity to do something different, give back to the fans, and do something really unique and really fun. And UFC even, this was the thing I think really riled me up, they even teased this. So in all the promotion that they had, even on the graphics and even on like some of the photo shoots and photo opportunities and stuff like that, they had an octagon on the beach. There was an octagon there set up on the beach, and a lot of people thought, okay, this is what we're going to have. We're going to have fights on the beach in the octagon. Look at this aesthetic. This has never been done before. It's totally unique. What an awesome spectacle this is going to be. And then in reality, it was disappointed because in the end, it was just an octagon in the middle of an arena in Abu Dhabi. They built this like sort of tent structure there, I guess, or this arena structure there, and they had the octagon in there, and it just looked like any other UFC event. Any other UFC event. There was no difference to that event, aesthetically, what it looked like as you were watching the event, apart from having no fans, of course, but aesthetically, the setup looked no different to if you had the show at MSG, the TD Garden, whatever arena you had in the world. It looked no different. No different. It looked like any other UFC event. And they go, look at this, it's UFC Fight Island, it's Fight Island, look at this, it's amazing, it's a one-of-a-kind time, look at this, it's so unique. And it wasn't. It was exactly the same. It looked exactly the same. So I hope that if WWE does go the line of, okay, we're going to do it on the beach or something, put the ring on the beach. Put it on the sand, or do what you have to do. Even if you put it on, I don't know, concrete, but you've got a sand background or a beach background, that's better. That's still better. And you've got, the WWE can have a massive opportunity here to do their own Fight Island and do it properly. They could even put into their promotion. They wouldn't, but they would be like, "This is how you do a Fight Island. You don't actually have an arena and all this sort of crap. You have a bout in the middle of the beach. You do that kind of thing. So they could absolutely do that, and that would be such a unique presentation, and so different and so compelling, and it would be fitting for one of the biggest shows and pay-per-views of the year, SummerSlam. That would be, for me, that would be ideal, and I think that's something that they should definitely consider. In addition to that, Mike Johnson of PW Insider also said that they could be doing it on a cruise ship. Again, I really like that idea. The aesthetic of it would be great. You look at the AEW shows earlier this year that they had on the Jericho cruise. They were awesome. Obviously, they had some issues being when they were ported with the wind. The sound issues weren't great, but I think WWE's production level, this is no disservice to AEW, but WWE's production levels is, of course, very, very high. So I'm sure they'll be able to find a way to overcome those issues. Again, it's just a different look. It's a different aesthetic. It would be, it would look great. It would look fun. I thought the AEW shows, that look of being on the cruise ship looked great. At the time, I would have preferred, like, maybe if you could obviously see it was on a boat, but my improvement to it would be like, let's really up that. Let's find a way of really making it look like we're a boat. Have a couple of drone shots of the action going on in the ring right above the boat in port and all that sort of stuff. That could be really fun. That's just obviously little production things, but I think WWE would absolutely do that kind of thing. So a cruise ship, a beach, that's a massive thumbs up from me. That is something different. And in fairness, I criticise Vince McMahon for being out of touch at the start of this video, but I do praise him for his idea there that, yeah, you can't have every show looking the same, and obviously being in the performance center and having all of that sort of stuff. When it comes to these big shows, they've got to try and gussy them up, do something different, do something unique. So absolutely, hats off, credit to Vince McMahon for that idea. I think it would be awesome. I think it would look great. I think it would feel different. In terms of the cruise ship, you can absolutely do that still with the closed set, so there isn't any issues there. It'll be the same kind of protocols, I would assume, that they have at the Performance Center, whereby they have the testing to get onto the set, they have the social distancing behind the scenes, there's lots of room to social distance and all of that sort of stuff. So I would assume from the testing point of views that they have in place at the moment, and the social distancing, mask wearing, etc., they can still do that on a cruise ship. You can do that on a closed set. With the beach, maybe that's slightly more difficult because you need to not give the location of the beach just to ensure that fans don't show up, because even though there are sometimes, you tell fans to stay away, some fans will still do their very best if they're in the local area to maybe try and show up at the set anyway, try and meet some wrestlers, try and see some action. Especially if it's tape, they might want to get the results, or if it's live, they want to get themselves on TV. Obviously, there are ways around that as well. You can still do a closed set if it's on a beach, I assume. You can close the beach, you can ensure people don't show up and all that sort of stuff. Don't tell the actual location, keep it undisclosed. And all of that sort of stuff. So I don't think that would be a problem either. And it's not as if WWE hasn't done this in the past. Of course, you had the Yokozuna body slam thing, right? That was on a was it a naval ship back in 94 or something like that? And you had 93, 94, and you had Lex Luger come out and body slam Yokozuna. That was on a ship, and you've heard all the stories about that, about how hot it was, and how obviously the ring was on the ship for the entirety of the day, and it got boiling hot in the sun. Yokozuna took his flip-flops off, his feet are on fire, and Mr. Fuji kicks him out of the ring as a massive rib on Yokozuna. I love stories like that. But even then, the aesthetic of it, the look of it was great. And fast forward however many years later, over 20 odd years later, even more than that, I'm sure WWE can still do it, and if anything, they can do it even better with the production quality and the production facilities that they have. So I think it's different. I think it's in keeping of what a big event should be. I don't think, people go, well, why didn't they do something for that for WrestleMania? You've got to remember, at the time for WrestleMania, chaos wasn't the word. There was so much going on in the world then, and there is still now, but we know, obviously, hopefully, you would hope that we know more now than we knew then about the whole pandemic and all of that sort of stuff, and shutting down, because at that period of time, everything was just shutting down completely. It was like, okay, we don't know what's going on, stay safe, stay at home, shut everything down, don't go outside, all of it, just lockdown, quarantine, you name it, that was the plan, and that was for all productions until they were deemed essential media by the Florida governor, because WWE is up there with the news, remember, it is essential media, so they can continue taping. But now that we know a bit more about what's going on and how to overcome certain issues, how to safely, if it is possible, how to safely put on a production and put on an event, whether it's testing, social distancing, mask wearing, WWE should be considering for shows like this, how can we do something different? How can we do it? How can we do something unique? And something needs to change now, because when you look at the shows in the Performance Center, look, they all do look the same. I don't think that's necessarily a new issue, because for years, at this point, the only difference between Raw and SmackDown has been the graphics and the ropes, right? That was a massive problem for WWE when it came to the brand split and stuff like that. At some periods of time, they were even using the same Titantron or the same set. Like, at least now they tried to have different sets, and like I said, they have different announcers and all this sort of stuff. But sometimes the shows, they just look the same. They just feel like a continuation of the same show that you watched on Monday is continuing on Friday, just with a different set of cast and a different set of players. So the idea that everything looks the same isn't necessarily a new thing, because every arena up and down the country looks the same. I think fundamentally why this would be a good idea for SummerSlam is that the backdrop change. It isn't like having something in a different arena, so that helps. No, it's because, let's be honest, when you watch NXT at Full Sail and you watch WWE at the Performance Center, there isn't a huge amount of difference. You can tell they're different places, but they look roughly the same in terms of the setup. Whereas if you have a completely different backdrop, whether it is on a cruise ship, whether it is on a beach, whatever, it's different. It's different. It's a different setup. It's a different set. The aesthetic is different. You have the announcers dress up differently. It becomes an event. It becomes something different, and it becomes unique, and it becomes worth watching. You know, as I mentioned, SummerSlam is one of your biggest events of the year. You don't want it to set up as it's worth skipping. Well, I watch Raw and SmackDown, and I've seen all the pay-per-views. They all look the same at the moment. If I miss it, I don't miss anything. And I think this is the right thing to do, as long as obviously it can be done safely. And I think if you have SummerSlam on a cruise ship, you can still do the cinematic matches there. You can do a lot of unique and different stuff, right? You can have cinematic matches throughout the ship. There are various locations that you can use. You can use the cabins, the ballrooms, the different decks, all of that sort of stuff. You can have a lot of fun and do a lot of unique stuff there. Now, I'm not massive. We talked about wacky plans and the use of wacky earlier on in this video, but I'm not huge, obviously, on the 24/7 championship and that wackiness. But if they want to do something like that, they can do that. They can do a whole beach brawl. It's like UWF, isn't it? But they can do a whole beach brawl kind of setup and have matches that spill over onto the beach, or have matches that spill over into the pool, and do a whole Nitro, Kevin Nash, Scott Hall, the Giant scenario where they throw people in the pool. Those spring break shows were one of my favourite things about Nitro, was because the aesthetic was different, the look was different. You had the ring in the middle of the pool and all of that sort of stuff, and it looked great. And I think SummerSlam, having that aesthetic to it, would be incredibly useful and incredibly unique, and it would certainly help me, and I'm just speaking for myself here, I don't know about you at home, but it would certainly, for me, get me more excited about the event coming up, and be more interested in watching it purely for the purposes, not even the matches that are on the card. It would be more, okay, what are they going to do? What's the production going to look like? What's the set going to look like? All of that sort of stuff would be really interesting, and it would make it feel like a big event. Obviously, if you have it on a beach, if it's in Florida, you could potentially go into like Hogan's Beach Shop. Of course, he's got his beach shop there. And there were rumors, even back as far as WrestleMania time, of course, with WrestleMania happening in Tampa, and that's obviously where Hulk Hogan lives, and he's got his beach shop in Tampa. There was rumors about Hulk Hogan appearing at WrestleMania. I think he was going to win the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal as well. I think that rumor's out there. But there were also rumors about potentially having some 24/7 spots at Hogan's beach shop and all of that sort of stuff. So they could certainly revisit that idea if they wanted, and they could go to Hogan's beach shop if it was taking place on a Florida beach or the beach outside Hogan's beach shop, who knows. So they could do fun stuff like that. Just look, a different location, a different backdrop, as long as it's done safely, isn't a bad thing. It really isn't a bad thing, and it can make the event just seem more special and more interesting and more. It just gives the fans a reason to watch that they might not have had before. There have also been rumours that if it doesn't happen in Florida, because of course there's lots of issues at the moment with the pandemic in Florida, stay-at-home orders and all that sort of stuff, potentially WWE could look to use a beach in Puerto Rico somewhere. That's been mentioned. Or again, if you're on the cruise ship, I think it might be easier to do the whole close set element of the cruise ship, and you can rent a ship or rent a boat sort of thing. That makes more sense, I think, logistically to me. But I like the idea of the beach backdrop as well if they did it properly. So either or, I wouldn't mind. Maybe Brock Lesnar, do you remember that famous SummerSlam advert? Which SummerSlam was it for? I think it was for like SummerSlam. It's either SummerSlam 2002 or 2003. I want to say it's 2003. And there was a SummerSlam advert where Brock Lesnar, there's like a shark in the beach, on the beach or in the sea next to the beach or the ocean. And Brock Lesnar just sort of runs out nowhere in full wrestling gear, trunks and or tights and boots, runs into the ocean, starts wrestling with this shark, and F5's a shark. I mean, physically, they might be be able to do that. I would pop so hard if they recreated Brock Lesnar F5ing a great white shark at SummerSlam. If that was his only appearance as well. It's rumours that Brock Lesnar isn't going to be a part of SummerSlam. He obviously lives in Canada. There might be issues with travel. Financially, is it worth bringing him in when WWE aren't making as much money, etc., etc. Imagine they brought him in just to F5 a shark once again. I would laugh so hard that I might not be able to do videos ever again here on YouTube. Honestly, that would be great. But of course, as always, this is just one man's opinion. What a great way to end the video, by the way. This is just one man's opinion. What are your thoughts on the wacky potential SummerSlam plans that Vince McMahon has in mind? Would you like to see SummerSlam take place on a beach, on a boat, on a cruise ship, in a different location? What are your thoughts on the backdrop? Is it better than the Performance Center shows? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I'll be sure to respond and reply to all of your comments. I really do enjoy interacting with you guys in the comment section, so be sure to leave a comment there. If you have enjoyed the video, please do give us a like on this video. It really does help us get up the rankings here on YouTube and get into people's recommendation feeds. And most importantly, if you haven't already, please do subscribe to WrestleNews 365 here on YouTube. You can do that by clicking the bottom right hand corner of the screen right now, or if you wait a few seconds, there'll be a subscribe button at the end of this video along with another video for you to watch. We're only 6 subscribers away from 600 subscribers overall on that long road to 1,000 subscribers. Once we get to 1,000 subscribers, we'll be doing a lot more live streams and watch-alongs. We did a couple of watch-alongs for Slammiversary and Extreme Rules, but once we get to 1,000, we'll be doing that for Raws, SmackDowns, NXTs, AEW Dynamite, Impact Wrestling, pay-per-views, of course, you name it, we'll be doing it. So if you haven't already, please do subscribe to WrestleNews 365. If you have, just know that I really do appreciate it. I appreciate everyone that takes the time to listen to these videos, watch these videos, and interact with them. It really does mean a lot. You can also follow us on our social media platforms. They're on the screen right now, the handles. The links are in the description box below. It's at 365Wrestle on Twitter and at WrestleNews365 on Facebook and Instagram. So be sure to give us a like or a follow there if you haven't already. Thank you very much for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. And I'll speak to you again very, very soon. Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on the right there to watch our next video, or click the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.